I want to take a moment to discuss career alignment and the importance today's modern workforce holds on the term. But first, let's define the term. Career alignment refers to the state where an individual's work is in harmony with their personal values, interests, and long term goals. It's the process that ensures that your personal life also takes into account your personal fulfillment and contributes to your overall well being rather than just being a source of income. When your career is aligned, it leads to better engagement, job satisfaction, coupled with a more meaningful professional journey. And according to my friends over at LinkedIn, today's modern workforce puts a heavy emphasis on this very concept. LinkedIn says that 82% of today's workforce says it's very important that the place they work for aligns with their culture and own values. Meanwhile, a 2025 Gallup report says that 63% of Americans believe that their companies offer opportunities for career advancement. However, these opportunities are not equally distributed because 25% of today's workforce says that they believe they lack a clear path for career growth and prosperity. For my friend Carolyn Sangal, this information will prove to be fascinating because you see, she's a life first career coach and founder of Next Success. She helps career minded individuals explore their next chapter with the authentic vision it requires to be successful, guiding them to align their career with the life they want. And Sangal joined me this week to tell me more about employment diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how your career values can align with your personal ambition, allowing you to experience prosperity both inside and outside of the office. I'm Kevin McShane. Let's have this conversation. A moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to talk to you all about career success and creating your next chapter in your career, my friend. Happy Wednesday to you, and it's great to see you this morning.
Awesome. Yes, great to see you.
So, my friend, I'm curious to start our conversation by asking you how you define the new version of what it means to have a successful career. What does that mean to you, my friend?
Yes, yes. So to me, in this stage and phase of life, I am all about trying to help people be authentically successful. And authentic success is how you define it. And in particular, like, how do you want your life to be? And does your career fuel that vision of the life you want? And does it, because otherwise, what happens is if people get caught up on somebody else's definition or version of success, like whether that's money or title or cars or possessions, that's fine for a moment, but what can happen is you don't internally feel like you're actually living who you are, what you stand for, the things that are important to you, and there can be this disconnect. So to me, I'm trying to help people not have a disconnect, but decide what do you want your life to look like? How can your career and your job be the thing that provides fuel to it and not the thing that detracts? Because otherwise, sometimes people are so successful in their jobs that they're drained and they don't get to show up in their relationships and don't have a good well-being. Their performance might be fine, but their relationships and their well-being can take a hit and struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, they tell me that you're a scientist turned career strategist, my friend. So, how does a scientist go from being in science to helping people find their ideal careers? Tell me a little bit about your background and journey, my friend.
Yeah, so back in the day, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s was when I was doing my schooling, and there was a huge push for women to be in science. And I was good in math and I was good in science, and so I listened to those well-meaning adults who were around me, and I went in for college. My undergrad is in chemistry. And then I went on and got a PhD in polymer science, so rubber and plastics. And for that, I studied how cracks initiated and grew in materials. Now, one could think, oh, am I trying to break things? Well, I was trying to learn how they broke so that I could make them stronger. And interestingly, now, decades later, I do that with people. So there are parts of science that I'm a firm believer. You can do something, you can do it really well. It can be great for you for a chapter, but it doesn't have to be your whole book. And there are parts of science that I resonated with, parts that I did extremely well, recognized by awards, accomplishments, achievements. And I also felt like I was actually made for a little bit more. I mean, I have this gift of extroversion, this gift of communication that in some cases in science, I wasn't able to fully express. So it was a winding journey. I did a PhD in polymer science. I worked in the chemical industry for about a decade, did things like fatigue and fracture mechanics of metal bonding structural adhesives. Very interesting. I got laid off. And that was a hit to the ego because I thought, are you kidding? Like, don't you know who I am? I have all these accolades. I made these millions of dollars of adhesives and I got laid off. But that was also at a very opportune time because I had one child already and I was expecting our second child when I was laid off. So I got to immerse myself in being a mom and being a stay-at-home mom and seeing my kids kind of grow up and do things. And I didn't see that when I was working and gone for most of the day. So that changed my view of what I wanted my life to look like. I went back into work when my youngest was in kindergarten. I went in and became a recruiter for the chemical industry. So, globally, executive recruiter. So, I helped place people in companies. I got to use my education, knowledge, experience. I got to actually help people get new careers. And I had the flexibility that I wanted for that stage of my children's lives and development because of how I chose to be compensated. But I kept seeing this pattern of people externally successful and inwardly not fulfilled. And they would think that a different job would change everything. And oftentimes it was a different job, but the same problems they encountered on different faces. And so I wanted to try to tackle that and understand that and while I was being very successful as a recruiter, getting global top performer awards year after year, the reality was I was also, my well being was taking a hit because I ended up with class two obesity, high blood pressure with three different medicines, developed an irregular heart rate where I would just be sitting, my heart would go to 210, had to have a cardiac ablation, and I hadn't connected that all these problems my body was experiencing was because I was trying to force myself into this mold of somebody else's version of success. It wasn't until my husband kind of sat me down and helped me realize that I was literally slowly killing myself, and he was terrified that we might not have long of a future because he didn't know if I'd be around for another anniversary. So he encouraged me to figure out what I really wanted to do and to pursue that. And so that's how I came into building my company Next Success and really trying to help other people, trying to solve that problem of how is it people are externally successful, inwardly unfulfilled? How can that be solved? And how can people actually be able to celebrate who they are, what they do best, how they communicate, understand the thoughts in their head and how that's affecting their performance and what do they want their life to look like? What do they want their career to look like? So it's a winding road, and I know what breaks people, and I also know how to make them stronger. So that's what I focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, no one will ever accuse you of not shooting for the stars, my friend.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I know you brought up your company Next Success, where you help high achieving career professionals kind of seek clarity and find the career that's best fit for them. So tell me about Next Success and how to help people define career clarity. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yes, yes. So I think career clarity is kind of when you stop spinning your wheels and stop trying to do everything you could do and really understand who are you? Who are you? What do you do best? What do you want to do? What's the life that you want to have? And how can you use these, hardwired talents you were given, plus your interest in the things that fascinate you, the family that you have, many, many different factors I can help people sort through. Because, see, here's what I view, Kevin. Many people think about their career and their success as their title, their salary, and their location, right? That's what a lot of people focus on. And so to me, I say your career is like an iceberg. And above the surface, you see the iceberg. And that's what people usually focus on, the title, salary, location. But if you ever look at an iceberg, my friend, you can go down 4 or 5 levels under the surface of the ocean. That iceberg goes down and has a tremendous foundation. And so for someone's career, the top part is job, title, salary, location. But what is really driving ultimate fulfillment, which is really driving clarity, right, is who are you? What do you do best? How do you communicate? How is that behavior? What do you want your life to look like? How can your career fuel that? And what's the thoughts in your head? So I have 4 pillars: natural abilities, communication behavior, mental fitness and resilience, and having an integrated vision. That's the work I love doing with people, is really helping them to sort out multiple viewpoints of what is the right next step for them.
Yeah, I'm also curious to ask you about career transition because more than half of Americans will have more than one career in their working lifespan, my friend. So, talk to me about successfully making a career pivot and the mindset that you have to be successful in that process. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so interesting. What I came to realize as I dove into this topic and tried to treat it like another dissertation, right? When somebody's going to get their PhD, one of the first things they do is they're kind of assigned a problem that they're trying to answer, and then in the decisions and discussion of how you're going to approach that, you try to dig into the research and figure out what's already been done and how does that bring you up to today and where you're going to answer this question. And so what I came to realize through that exercise was careers and questioning your career happens at normal and predictable stages. Now, that information is not shared with the masses, my friend. So, then what are the normal stages of career questioning and transitioning? It's around, let's say, 16 to 18 years old. maybe 22 to 26. And then every 7 to 10 years after that, as part of our normal growth and development as humans, we begin to question, is this it? Is this really all there is? Is this what I want to do? And so what I want people to understand is questioning your career is normal, doesn't mean something's wrong. It is an opportunity to get more aligned with who are you. Some of those earliest times of career transitions, let's say a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-something-year-old, you're honestly just starting to scratch the surface of who you are. And many people rely on well-intentioned adults to help guide them to their decisions because they don't know. And so, what can happen is somebody can get into something and they can start to do it and they can even be doing it well, but having that pull of, I don't know, this is what I really want to do. And so, that's what's driving a lot of transitions is as people are becoming more aware of who they are, or as they're developing and trying to realize what type of life they actually want, what they chose might not be aligning with what they want their future to be. And so that is how pivots can start to happen. The mindset, I think, that is extremely important is recognizing that every experience, every challenge we have had is an opportunity and has been helping us gain skills and experiences to serve us in the future. Even something like that layoff that I had that at the time I was like it was crushing because my identity had been tied up in what I did, not who I was. And so when somebody took that identity and I was no longer a PhD research scientist employed by a company, that was a huge hit to the ego. And I was like, well, who am I now? What is it? I guess I'm just a mom, you know? And reality is, just a mom is one of the most amazing vocations I could ever have. And when I went back to work in that next chapter as a recruiter for the chemical industry, even that experience of being laid off had a use and a purpose because I intimately was able to understand by talking, career transitions can happen by choice or happen by force. We are in a stage right now where there are thousands of layoffs
Mm-hmm.
being put into the news. And so there are people who are going to have to be getting a new job by no fault of their own. Mostly. Sometimes you're just at the wrong end of a business decision. And so even something like when it happened to me, I thought it happened to me. It actually happened for me because I was then able to, in talking as a recruiter, I could connect so much better and understood exactly what that felt like, exactly what that meant. And I was able to coach people and help them get through it and realize this is one page, turn the page. The next chapter is going to be amazing. How can we make it be beautiful?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Carolyn, one of the things that you say is that as an old journalist, my friend, this made me smile, okay? You said asking questions is the key to finding success, my friend. So tell me why asking questions is so vitally important to discovering your own path to career prosperity, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yes, yes, yes. Curiosity is such a beautiful gift that we have. And when we are no longer driven by fear of what, oh, I have to do this, or oh, I must do this, or what do people think? If we can shift into that curiosity of like, what would that look like? If I could do anything, what would I really love to do? What do I really want my life to look like? Do I want to be able to drop off and pick up my children from school? Do I need that? Do I want to be able to have kids that have a relationship and want to be with me? Do I want that? Do I want to travel? Like, what is it that I'd love to do? And trying to understand like, who am I? What are the activities that I do that are draining my energy? And what are the things that are giving me energy? Because if I can understand who I am by that measure, or I have many scientifically validated data driven assessments to help people if they don't know who they are, but really getting curious of who am I? What's it like to be me? And recognizing what it's like to be me and what it's like to not be me, and realizing neither one is right or wrong. They're different. And each thing has its own beauty and use and perspective if we can be curious enough to be like, well, what's the value here? How can this new perspective bring to an elevated level of awareness or performance?
Yeah, absolutely. And Carolyn, I'm curious to ask you also about your opinion on this. I'm curious if you think having too much career ambition can sometimes be a trap. And the reason I say that is because as an ambitious person myself, sometimes, finding a lane of discipline in order to achieve success can sometimes be blurry and cloudy. So I'm curious, do you think having too much career ambition can be a trap for some people?
Ah, so there's a careful balance here, right? Because ambition fuels and drives us to new levels we didn't necessarily know were possible. And here's the trick. But is the ambition serving you and fueling the life you want? Or is it detracting? Because I tell you, Kevin, there was a time when, and this happened in both my scientific research scientist career and also in my executive recruiter top performing career. I was ambitious and I thought I was chasing these goals of what was going to, when I get this award, then I'll be happy. When I reach this level of compensation, then I'll be happy. And I was focusing on those factors. And so my performance was increasing, but my relationships and my well being were suffering. So I think that ambition has a use, it has a purpose. And we also must, I don't believe in work life balance. There's no balance. It's not a separate me that shows up at work and a separate me that shows up at home. It's just me. So I try to help people focus for integration. How can, if I am so ambitious and I am so worried about serving that client, that I'm neglecting the beautiful children that live in my household and I'm nasty to them and I'm yelling, shh, mommy's on a call, be quiet. That's not, I'm ambitious, but I'm not living in a way that reflects the kind of relationships I want to have. And so I think that's the thing is ambition has a purpose. It is good. It fuels you. And be careful. Is it also helping your relationships and your well being to the point of where you want to focus on? And those can change over time, right? When I didn't have children, I didn't have that pull. I didn't have that desire that I needed to be something like that for somebody else. And then when that became my gift and my responsibility, my priorities changed a little bit. That doesn't mean I'm less ambitious. It means my ambition expanded and my definition of what I really wanted was no longer just about performance or salary or title. It was about relationships with new humans that were being formed. So that can change in so many people's lives depending on, you know, what changes in their sphere of influence. It's actually 8 factors that I believe should be considered when somebody's making a transition, making a decision. If you like, I can tell a little bit more about those 8 factors.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so to me, most people I said at the top of the iceberg is the title, salary, location, or a goal of something they're trying to achieve. But what's actually driving fulfillment and success is the next success method. And part of that includes 8 factors. Where are you in your career development stage? What are your natural abilities, your hardwired gifts and talents that can be measured by a performance-based objective measurement, not a subjective. There's so many assessments that are like, tell me how you think you are, and I'll tell you what you said. Now that's great until somebody thinks they're something, they have a perception of themselves that is different than what everybody else experiences, right? So, career development stage, abilities, your skills, what did you spend time, effort, and energy to learn? Your interest, what fascinates you? Your personal style, are you an introvert, extrovert, generalist, specialist? How do you communicate? Those all influence and affect what type of role you like to play in work. Your family, the family you come from, the family and friends that you have now, those influence what can be a good fit for you in that moment. Your goals and your values, all of those things are what I believe really needs to be considered. And then, what do you want your life to look like? How can your career fuel that life?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you also say it's important to take mindset of being a life first career professional, and you went through some of that in your last answer. But I'm wondering if you could drill down and tell me what it truly means to be a life first career professional, my friend.
Absolutely. So, right now, I want my life to look like one where I'm developing relationships. My children are teenagers now. I want to be somebody that they want to come and talk to sometime. And so, if that's what I truly want, and I want those relationships, I'm valuing those relationships first. What does that mean? That means that sometimes I might be sitting here and I might be working and I might be planning my next podcast episode or working on something to support some of the courses and the clients that I serve. But when my teenager, if they show up at my door or come into my office, even though I'm already working on this thing, I pivot because that's important for my life. They won't always be here. And so to me, that's the thing. So life first. What do I want? So at sometimes I make choices, and the choices I make are not helping me make more money, but they are helping me to have better relationships. And I think during COVID, I don't know about you, but I kind of realized a little bit more about how important it was to make sure that the things I said mattered were actually getting time and attention. And so that to me is the life. So do I want and do I want a job that is flexible where I'm calling the shots and I can do it from anywhere? Yes, I do. I want to be able to travel. I don't want to be limited and confined by things. So that those are the things that I want for my life, and my career is one now that fuels and allows for those kinds of things. There are some people that what they want for their life is the stable insurance and they want the stable paycheck, and so therefore they're willing to maybe not travel all over the place right now, because they need those other things. So it's like, is it serving your life? Because otherwise, what happens is they're so focused on their job, by the time you get home, you're exhausted and you start numbing with food or alcohol or social media or TV, and you don't get, you're just numbing, and then the next day you go and you go to work again and you get off and you're numbing. And meanwhile, you have relationships with people you said mattered, like your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or your children, and those people grow up and move on. So it's like there's a limited time here for prioritizing what's truly important to someone. So that's life first focus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Carolyn, I'm going to share a little about myself. So, I used to be the lead job developer at the YMCA, and our employment department was small. It was only about 5 people. So, for better or for worse, my desk was directly next to my boss. And every morning, we would go through the morning and what I had to do for the day. And one day, she had emailed me at 4:30 in the afternoon, and I answered the email at 8 o'clock at night. And the next day, she came into my office and just said, when I close my laptop at 4:30, I shut off my mind from work unless it's an emergency. And you don't always have to be connected to your inbox. So, admittedly, I'm a self-recovering email perfectionist that's learning that when something comes into my inbox, I don't automatically have to answer it right away. So I'm
Yes.
curious to ask you about career burnout because more than 40% of Americans today admit that at some level they're burned out through their career and experiencing a stagnation, my friend. So I'm wondering your thoughts on how to avoid career burnout and still be in love with your work. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Aha. Yes. Okay. Yes. So burnout happens when there's misalignment, right? Your work can have its own mission, vision, values. And if people don't understand their own personal mission, vision, values, it's so easy to become what your work wanted because you hadn't defined them for yourself. And there are many people struggle with that email thing. I myself used to do it too, Kevin. I used to like anytime an email came in, oh, I got to reply. Oh, I got to reply. Oh, I got to reply. And now I no longer have my email where it sends me notifications. When I feel like checking it, that's when I see what came in, right? To try to put some of those boundaries. So burnout is misalignment. It is you showing up for something that your spirit has outgrown, right? So what can help save you from burnout? How can you do that? Well, one of the things is mental fitness, mental resilience, the thoughts in our mind, right? Because what I've come to realize is there are some thoughts that are sabotaging my ultimate success and other thoughts that are fueling it. So, but I wasn't aware of what versions. My favorite flavors of sabotage were hyperachiever, hypervigilant, controller, controlling everything. And those have a purpose, but they were driving me in a fear-based kind of thing, not a more of like a faith-based understanding, curiosity, innovation, exploration kind of approach. So, one thing of burnout is what are the thoughts fueling your success? What are the activities that you're doing that are either energizing you or draining you? Right? Talking to people like yourself, I love it. I could do it anytime. I'm going to be energized from that. Calculating expenses, eh, it's important, but that's going to drain the energy out of me. So, for people understanding what is fueling you and helping you feel more alive, and what are things that you need to do that are taking energy, how can you give yourself a buffer or protect your ultimate energy? You gotta, sometimes my husband will say, sometimes you gotta take a break to sharpen your knife, right? So,
I am recovering that myself because I'm a task oriented person, and once I set my mind to achieving something until it's done.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm recovering in that regard. But I'm curious, Carolyn, as you know, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I advocate on behalf of people with disabilities as a speaker so that they can be hired by organizations. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on this because last year the Bureau of Labor and Statistics showed that the employment population for people with disabilities was about 22.7% compared to 65.5% for those without disabilities. So I'm curious, what do you think it will take to get more people with disabilities employed and eliminate bias from employers in their pursuit of creating a more diverse workforce? How do you think we can get them to view hiring people with disabilities as a competitive advantage? What are your thoughts there?
absolutely. I am a firm believer that we have all been made on purpose for a purpose only we can do. Each of us is unique, special, important, and needed. And needed. And now if that's the God view, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of it I think is more people understanding that. Like there's nothing wrong with someone, but what is that special gift? You have so many special gifts, talents, and amazing ability for interviewing, research, communication, sharing stories. So I really hope that people can just understand what it's like to be them, what it's like to not be them, and appreciate and understand the gift of every person and their unique thing that they can bring in perspective. So I hope people stop being like what like it, yeah, inclusive and appreciative and understanding everyone has a gift, and it might not be the package that they're familiar with or the package of what it looked like on the outside, but inside no one was made less than. We're all made different and beautiful. So appreciating that, understanding that, and being patient enough to draw that out and see all those beautiful things, because that's when we can stop becoming so, you know, focused on our own selves and our own greatness that we, at the expense of others. We're not competing against anyone. I'm competing against me this morning. But how can we lift each other as we both climb together? That's what I really hope for. So I look forward to a day where people are celebrated for all of their unique beauty and how that benefits the world, and finding a way to explore that and allow it to bloom even further for the greater good of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carolyn, if I put you in front of 100 college freshmen who weren't committed to a major and going through the process of picking one, I'm curious, what would be your message to them, or what factors should they consider when determining what career path they want to go on? What are your thoughts there?
Oh, I would love it. I would love this. And so if they had the time and resources available to support that, or even just the interest, and I'd find a way to make the resources. But I would start with an assessment called the Highlands Ability Battery. That's that objective performance-based measurement of how they're hardwired in 18 different areas, and I would see where do they line up there. And then I have there's a way to correlate how their natural hardwiring relates to several different careers. Actually, the entire government database of over 600 careers for people who are interested in higher education beyond high school. So you can see, how does somebody's hardwiring overall correlate to what's needed in certain careers, and how do certain patterns of abilities correlate to careers. And that's one factor, but I said there were 8 before, right? So career development stage, somebody 18 to 19 years old is willing to do a lot more things than somebody 60 years old, right? So then we'd know their abilities. Then we'd know their skills. What were the things that they spent time, effort, and energy to learn? What they like so far? What are they interested in? Another assessment I would help see. Now we could get it on several different factors. Then what kind of life do they want, right? Do they feel like they want to be working in an office or out in nature? Do they feel like they want to have, what kind of goals do they have for their future? What would they like to have? What kind of family did they come from? Sometimes it's either oh, my parents are college educated, so that's just what we do. Or sometimes it's oh, my parent was check to check, and I'm not going to be like that, right? So I would really try to help them sort out a little bit deeper, not just what sounds good, not just what somebody told them, but starting to understand, what do they really want and what would they like to explore, and also realizing that a decision made at 18 or 19 does not mean that's your path for the next 40 years. It can be for a couple years, it can be for a chapter. Everything has a use in time. Everything is happening for you. But that's how I'd start with them.
Yeah, and Carolyn, I'm curious to ask you to go beyond the resume, because we talked about the 8 factors earlier, but you also say that there are 4 key ingredients that every decision you make in your career has to have. And I'm wondering if we can go through those this morning.
Yes, yes. So that would be of my next success method. We have 4 pillars. 1, natural abilities. We talked a little bit about that, the hardwiring. 2, what is your communication behavior? How do you communicate and interact with people, right? So you are task focused, right? You're going to get the task done. Some people are people focused. Understanding that, are you task or people? Are you careful, a little bit slower, or are you super fast, right? Are you direct or indirect? Open or guarded? All of these things influence how you communicate and how you show up. Understanding that of others, how to adjust your message to be heard. This is so important for careers. Also, your mental fitness, mental resilience, those thoughts in your head, what's really driving your performance, and that integrated vision. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want how can your career fuel that life? What do you want the vision for both of those? So, those are the factors that are missing: natural abilities, communication behavior, mental resilience, and an integrated vision. Those are what's missing.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'm also curious to ask you about creating a thriving organizational culture and how cultural diversity and race are interconnected in creating a thriving organizational culture. What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like interestingly, I remember watching a LinkedIn live video a few months ago, and LinkedIn was the one doing it. And they were highlighting a very well known leader at a very well known company. And I'll never forget that that guy said, what he looks at with employees is from your chair, we need this done. And if you're not willing to do it, we're going to find somebody else to sit in your chair. And I remember thinking, that is exactly what's wrong with so many workplaces. It's not culture, it's control. It's not appreciation, it's replacement. And I also kind of thought a little bit about like how I was raised. I grew up in the 80s where the message was to be colorblind, right? And the intention was good because everybody's made on purpose for a purpose and unique and, and equal in God's eyes. But the reality is, at that time, it was like if you treat everybody the same, you're being fair, and the intention was good, but it took away from some of the experiences and realization that the world places different understanding and perspectives, and that even you can be colorblind, but your experience of diversity, your culture, your race, they all influence the kind of experiences you've had to this point. And so to me, I think it's let's be appreciating our uniqueness, appreciating our benefits that we all bring from those life experiences. So we don't want to be people blind. We want to be understanding the richness of each person, their story, their perspective, the culture, how it's shaped them, and how it can help us be better. So, organizational culture, cultural diversity, race all come together. How deeply does a company truly see its people, who they are, what they do best, how they've been shaped, what the company wants to do, and how each person's beauty can be leveraged to do that versus just filling a chair. So, this is where kind of this mental fitness, self awareness also comes in. So, we learn to stop judging others and start appreciating others,
Mhm.
start appreciating ourselves, and start being able to be curious, exploring, and innovative. That awareness is really driving a lot of the potential for performance.
Yeah, and my friend, I've got two questions left for you, and I got one follow up on organizational culture because I'm sitting here talking to you this morning, Carol, and I'm curious and fascinated to ask you about the role empathy plays in organizational culture. Because I really think there's a lot, especially in America, and some days I wake up and I say, I'm thankful to be Canadian. But anyway, so I'm curious to ask you about the role empathy plays in today's organizational culture because all too often the societal pressures and the way that corporate America is structured today, I really think there's a lack of empathy within organizational culture, and I think that can be a driver for better organizational culture and creating a competitive advantage within an organization. And I'm curious to get your thoughts there as well.
Absolutely. I think empathy is a very important part of emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And it goes back to this thoughts of self-awareness and understanding, who am I? What's it like to be me? What's it like to not be me? And how can I appreciate the beauty and the differences of the people around me? So people are burned out and they're also judging everybody all the time or viewing somebody as good or bad, not good and also good, right? So that appreciation comes there. The mental resilience, the mental fitness of understanding what are the thoughts in our minds, how can we train them to be better inclusive, better aware, more empathy, more curiosity, more innovation, more just beauty instead of fear, control, criticism. That's the stuff that shuts people down. So if we can go curiosity, creativity, compassion, that brings people together and drives innovation. So that's another focus. I have an entire training to help individuals as well as teams really bring that. So it becomes so much more than just empathy, but also becomes awareness, understanding, and how can we harness those thoughts for our benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own individual and personal legacy and how you want that to be defined.
I believe we are all have the ability here to be saints in the making. So a saint is somebody that you know is in heaven. So my legacy, I want to be someone that continues to thrive for the things that matter, my goals, my values, my things, and that's appreciating the beauty of my life, the beauty of life's around it, and helping others to be able to do the same. So recognizing that, I'm imperfect, growing, learning, and using what I've been given for the betterment of the world. So for me, it's about transformation. It's about appreciating, uncovering, strengthening the gifts that I've been given and using them to help others do the same. So I hope that people I've worked with will walk away knowing themselves more deeply, not just what they do, but who they are, and recognize that their own God given abilities and design are here on purpose for gifts for themselves, their families, their communities, and the world. Like, what would it be like if we're all just living in our purpose and using all those things for good? Like, how many of the world's problems would be solved just from that? Not being what we think we have to do, but being who we are, and even more appreciating that. That's what I want. That's what I want for this authentic success from somebody from alignment of who are you, what you've been created to be. That multiplies. It changes people, families, workplaces, and entire communities. That's what I'd like it to be.
Absolutely. And my friend, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Awesome. So my website is nextsuccesscareers.com. On Facebook, Instagram, all those things. It's at Next Success Method. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, also at Next Success Method or Carolyn Sangal. And I have a podcast, Your Next Success, where I normalize questioning and careers and career transitions. I help tell lots of people's stories there. You can find that at nextsuccesspodcast.com or any place you see your podcast for your next success. I'd love to help anyone who's listening.
Well, my friend, it has certainly been an energetic, lively, and I think informative conversation. So I want to thank you for the good work that you do for career advancement and transformation, my friend, and for joining me to engage in conversation this morning. It's most appreciated, my friend.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I am so inspired by you and your story, and please keep sharing your beauty and your mission with the world. I'm so thankful to have been here with you.